This will not end well for those not paying attention. In today's video, I'm going to break down what I believe is happening right now in the greatest transformation of wealth in history. I'm also going to share with you, it's going to be a little bit of a different format. I'm just going to speak. I'm just going to share with you guys the logic around how I make my investments. I'm also going to share with you how I'm positioning myself to make it through this transition. But I'm not going to share it from a hype perspective or a hopium perspective. I'm going to share with you from a logical perspective, and I'm going to take you deep. This is going to take a little bit of time, so buckle up, get your pen and paper out. I'm going to take you through logically, my logical circuit on how I make my investments. Okay. I do them based on history, studying history at a deep level, financially, spiritually, and physically, understanding what has happened in society over and over and over again. Everything is just a cycle. I'm also going to share with you some perspectives from my banking career. I left banking in 2017, but also I'm an entrepreneur as well. I run 6 companies. So I have logic from being an entrepreneur and understanding how businesses work and how businesses scale. I have the banking experience, but I also spend and devoted my life to studying this, the economic cycles, the spiritual cycles, and the physical cycles. And what my expertise is, I'm going to stay in my lane, is understanding the financial cycles. So we're going to talk about the fourth turning, the crisis stage. We're going to talk about what is happening within the banking system and how we're transitioning. We're going to talk about fiat system, how it's changing, right? We're going to a new asset-backed type of currency. But how do you position yourself for something like this? What I want to encourage you to do is I want you to encourage you to go deep into research, to build an investment thesis. And once you build that investment thesis, I need you to stick with it. That's how winning is done. It's not done through hype. It's not done through hopium. It's not done through chasing markets. It's done through pulling the markets to you. Warren Buffett, buy fair, good companies at a fair price. That's it. Buy when there's blood in the streets and sell when there's greed. There's not a lot of magic to this, guys. If there's tons of emotion in your portfolio, if you're panic selling, if you're freaked out every single time the market goes down, you're going to get wrecked. Okay, so first, let's talk about some historical things. Okay, so it's important to understand the fourth turning. So our grandparents from 1929 to 1942, that's a key factor. There's always big economic change during wartime. Okay. We have a peacetime president, though. So I'm going to share with you when we get to that part how I think he's doing it differently, because peacetime presidents do it different than wartime presidents. So 1929 to 1942 was our crisis stage. We had the Great Depression. But why did the Great Depression and that huge collapse in the stock market happen? This is your first hint. Okay. In 1920, okay, they created what's called margin. Margin was created. That's where you could go into a bank, you could put in $1 and they give you $10. They would give you money that you didn't have, and people were gambling in the stock market. Okay. Real estate was booming. The stock market was booming. The roaring 20s happens every single time. Somebody always gets wrecked. The bankers always win. Okay. Remember, billionaires use astrology. Millionaires use charts. JP Morgan. I didn't say that. Billionaires use astrology. Millionaires use charts. Millionaires use charts. They're emotional. They're charting everything. Candles, red, green. That's how you get wrecked. Okay. Because there's a much bigger game happening. Write this down. 10, 10, 20, 25. Everybody was predicting these crazy prices, and boom, the market comes collapsing down. So let's back up to 1920 to 1929. So all of a sudden, the stock market comes collapsing down. Our grandparents went into what's called the Great Depression, right? That was their crisis stage from 1929 to 1942. We went into World War II. After wartime, right, as everybody's looking this way, they changed the whole system this way. We came out with IMF, International Monetary Fund, BIS, Bank of International Settlements, and America became the world's reserve currencies, and Bretton Woods created a gold-backed standard, changed the whole financial system. Then we went cruising into 1971, right? They detached us from the gold standard. They said they were protecting us from speculators, but they didn't have the gold, right? So they detached from the gold standard, and that's where it really hurt us, and we caught the ball. So this is really important. You can't invest like your grandparents or your parents anymore. Just my opinion. You can't invest like your grandparents and parents. Your house isn't even a good investment anymore. Think about that. You have to understand inflation. Your financial advisor is telling you that 5 to 6%, I'm getting you 8% on your portfolio. You're not even beating inflation. Why do you think these elites are stacking Bitcoin that grows 50% every single year? Why do you think gold's in an all-time high? Why do you think silver's in an all-time high? Guys, you're in the middle of a massive economic cycle. So we go into 1971, we detach from the gold standard. President Nixon comes on a regular program show and says, we're going to protect you from speculators, and we're detaching us from the gold standard, which made our money fiat. It gave them a full permission just to print. From 1971 to 2025, go study the wealth gap. The wealth gap, poor became poorer, the wealthier became wealthier. Our productivity went up, but our pay stayed the same. Okay. Then we cruise into 2006 to 2008. So I'm going to fast forward because this video will get way too long, but I want you to understand how I make my investments. And there's been over 32 huge market collapses since the markets have been created. Since the 1600s, about 200 years, there's been 32 major markets. There will always be a market collapse, guys. Always, always, always. So you have to position yourself properly through these markets collapse. That's a hint right there, okay? So 2006 to 2008, we went through the housing crisis. That was our 1929. It wasn't the Great Depression, but it was a really tough time for people, right? So what happened is America was irresponsibly managing the banks. Look, cats were getting loans. There was no income stated loans. It was absolutely wild. I went into banking at the back end of it. But in 2007 to 2006 to 2008, we went through our big financial crisis, right? Collapsed the markets. Okay. This is where it starts. The narrative starts around cryptocurrency for me. I didn't start investing, obviously, in 2009, but in cryptocurrency, I actually went into banking in 2007. So I had an opposite approach to this. But in 2009, Bitcoin was created right after the biggest financial collapse in history, our history. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa come together to de-dollarize. Right there on the website. We are trying to detach from the West. Isn't that interesting? So now you got Bitcoin is created, has a fixed supply of 21 million. No more can be printed. It's built into the code. Satoshi created something that's actually deflationary, opposite of the US dollar, which is an inflationary. And then around 2012 to 2013, it wasn't called XRP, but Ripple created a technology. I call it a technology. You call it a currency, is XRP. It's a technology that actually fixes the liquidity crisis. And that's the crisis with our banking system is nostro vostro. We have money. If I send you $1 million, I have to have money on this side. I have to have money on this side, $1 million on this side, $1 million on this side, trap liquidity. Well, why do they want to trap your liquidity? And why is it so slow and clunky? Because they're using your money. The bank is using your money to make interest income, fee income, and capital markets income. So the more they can slow down your money, the more they can use your money. They don't want money to move at the speed of light. That's a hint for you right now. They do not want it to move at the speed of light. That's why I'm saying it's not going to end well. For the people who hold on to the traditional banking system, for the banks who do not innovate, it is not going to end well for them, guys. I promise you. For those who are stuck in the old paradigm, it's not going to end for you well, guys. Money is going to move at the speed of light. That's your first hint. Liquidity is going to be freed up, and the whole system is going to change. We're going to go from a slow, clunky banking system where your money's trapped up, where they're using your money, to a fast banking system that is based on customer service and fees. Okay. So banks right now are panicking, trying to get their shit together. Why do you think the Clarity Act is delayed, guys? It's not by chance. Why do you think the Ripple case took 5 years to settle? Use your logic. A non-egregious case, guys, took 5 years to settle. Study the SEC cases against companies. Egregious cases last about 12 to 24 months. The Ripple case lasted 5 years for a non-egregious thing that XRP was sold on the secondary market as a security. That's it. There was nothing egregious about it, but it lasted 5 years, and then the SWIFT system goes live in 2025. And now there's no interconnection. That doesn't make XRP go parabolic, but it does make messaging move at the speed of light. And on 22nd, messaging now is all integrated at the speed of light. So money's going to have to move at the speed of light. Okay. So in 2009, Bitcoin is created. XRP has created a bridge currency. In 2012, Rosie Rios was told to reduce coin and cash usage by Obama, but as the 43rd treasurer of the United States, but she couldn't because Obama turned the rescue plan on full blast. 2012, the Mayan calendar was supposed to end. Remember Y2K 2000, nothing happened. 2012, the Mayan calendar was supposed to end, but that was a death and a rebirth of a new system. 2012 was a big shift, guys. So 2012 was the big shift. Rosie Rios told to reduce coin and cash. She couldn't. She said you need a shock to the system to change consumer behaviors. Rosie Rios sits now on the board of directors. This goes into my logic and my thesis around my investment, which I'm going to tell you exactly my investments, what I believe will help my family not only thrive but survive through 2030. Okay. In 2012, she couldn't do that. Now she sits on the board of directors for Ripple. She's a 43rd Treasury United States person for signing the last $100 bill. Like, think about that. Responsible for bringing in a new form of currency. And she sits on the board for Ripple, which created XRP. There's a hint right there. That's why I'm so bullish. I'm not just that alone, but I understand XRP due to my banking experience. Okay. I went to CBA Executive Banking School. Okay. So then we fast forward to 2020. Okay. Now remember, 2017, Jamie Dimon, Trump, 7 years ago, Larry Fink, we're all saying the same narrative. It's used for money laundering. Bitcoin's used for money laundering. It's a pet rock. I mean, what are all the different, comment down below, all the different things they said, right? They were telling you, look this way, look this way, look this way. Well, we go into the pandemic, 2020, get rocked. That's when I went into XRP early 2020. I got exposure in 2019 to it, understood it, got into it, and I started getting heavily in. Well, XRP was my first biggest holding, and I was really studying the ISO tokens, right? Or what people consider the ISO tokens, right? So I started studying those, had very, very limited, immature knowledge around these asset classes, just to be transparent. COVID shut my business down. That's what pissed me off. And they took away everything from me except my crypto. And basically what I did is I created ecosystems. So I studied Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. I got my first insurance policy. I started becoming my own family bank. And as the markets came back, as the businesses came back, I scaled the living shit out of my businesses and I created cash flow. Okay. So that's how my whole strategy started. I wasn't waiting for price predictions anymore. I wasn't waiting for hoping. I built a system called Capel DR. Okay. So then we come back in 2020, 2022, the narrative is still going. Bitcoin's a fraud. Bitcoin's a fraud. Bitcoin's a fraud. But remember, BlackRock, Larry Fink had 1.2 million shares in MicroStrategies, a failing software company. 2020, Michael Saylor's MicroStrategies was failing. They went all in on Bitcoin, and BlackRock did not change their position. Think about that. You have a huge position in MicroStrategies, and you don't change your position. When they went from a software company to a Bitcoin treasury. They put 250 million in first. They were failing. He threw a Hail Mary. Then he put 500 million, $500 million into Bitcoin. Okay. Think about that. But BlackRock didn't change their position. The only time that I think they reduced their position over the next couple of years before 2023 was when they pulled profits and then they went back into 1.2 million. So they really never changed their position. So they were getting exposure to Bitcoin through the back doors. They were telling you it's a fraud. And then in 2023, Larry Fink, the largest asset manager in the world, says Bitcoin's a flight to quality. And if you're worried about your country debasing your currency, you might want to get some exposure. And now they're the number one holder in Bitcoin outside of Satoshi. MicroStrategies is Strategy B now is a number 2 holder. Grayscale is number 3, and America is number 4. And Trump out of billionaires is a number 1 holder in Bitcoin out of billionaires. You got his whole ecosystem. Eric Trump owns, this is going to go into the hints of what I'm doing. American Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin mining, the picks and shovels. You got the Trump family that has gained more wealth. Within 24 months, they're going to have more wealth in cryptocurrency than they had their whole real estate empire. Okay. So from 2020 to 2024, we had 24% inflation. Then all of a sudden, all these big asset managers are starting to get exposure to Bitcoin. Okay, so now you landed in 2025 and you may be new to crypto. You may have been following me for a long time, but this is how I make my investments. Okay, the dollar is going to continue to become worth less. And this is where it's not going to end well for people. Is people doing the old investment strategy, 60-40 split, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Guys, the bond market is destroyed. They are taking over the bond market with stable coins. Stable coins is going to suck up all of the treasuries into stable coins, right? Trump trumped everybody with the stable coin. Okay, the Genius Act is really important. Go study the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. So the Genius Act is stable coin regulation. So this is where my narrative starts to get built really heavily from here to 2030. I'm going to share with you exactly what I'm doing. Not financial advice, but I want to do this so you can come back and measure how I did. Okay, so what I'm doing is based on Trump being president. He's writing the rules. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary who owns Cantor, which is a cryptocurrency company. Steve Witkoff, who's traveling around the world making business deals for Trump. Steve Witkoff stepped out. His boys are running the system. Howard Lutnick stepped out. Brandon Lutnick took over the crypto company. Brandon Lutnick, or Howard Lutnick specifically, will be a billionaire as Bitcoin starts to go up in Bitcoin. Okay. You got Bo Hines, who stepped down as the executive director of digital assets, went to Tether, brought into America. So they brought Tether into America, which has 90 or 60% stable, 90% of the stablecoin market, and stablecoins use 60% US Treasury short term to balance out the markets. Okay. So this goes into my narrative. We're transitioning to a distributed ledger technology system where money's going to move at the speed of light. We're going to have a new digital type of gold. I want you to just use logically. Think about your children right now. Think about how much life has changed for us in 18 years. What took 18 years will now take 3 years because of AI. In 3 years, what took 3 years will take 3 months. Do you really think that our kids are going to be sitting there using cash in the next 10 years? Do you really think that our children are going to be walking into a Wells Fargo bank to no, it's a nightmare. I do a lot of business, and I went into a wire. I literally had to sit there for you have to have an appointment. So you can't even go in and do a wire. Everything's going to be done online. Everything's going to be fast. It's going to be convenient. Everybody's going to have choice. Okay. So let's go into the narrative. So here's how I'm positioning myself. Okay. The new digital gold is Bitcoin. That's my opinion. I am sticking to it. And I'm not going to listen to hype and all this stuff. I'm going to watch what the largest asset manager in the world is. How the third wealthiest person in Mexico is 70% Bitcoin. The third wealthiest is a billionaire, 70% Bitcoin. Okay. So I'm positioning my family in the new gold, which is Bitcoin. Now I'm going to get my biggest bang for my buck. It grows 50% every year. That's pretty damn good. My Bitcoin has crushed every single the S&P, every single market. And so we have a Bitcoin treasury for our company. We have an XRP treasury for our company. Well, a treasury is just a fancy word for where your money's at, right? So we have Bitcoin, we have XRP, we have our dividend strategy, right? We have some Solana, we have some other things. And then personally, I call it a treasury for my family as well. So I'm doing this model for my company and personally, okay? So Bitcoin is my store of value like gold, okay? Trump created the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Okay, they created a sovereign wealth fund and a bag of currencies or some type of digital stockpile. Okay, so Bitcoin is our gold. Okay, so I'm going to store that. I buy it every single day at dollar cost average. Instead of drinking Starbucks bullshit, I put money into XRP and Bitcoin. Okay, XRP is my bridge currency that's going to fix this liquidity crisis. It's going to move all this value across the world. So I got the gold, Bitcoin. Okay, that's my supercharged savings. I'm never selling my Bitcoin. I got XRP, which is a bridge currency, which is bridging the currencies all over the world. Because there's going to be, guys, everybody's going to have a stable coin. Okay. The game has changed dramatically. Just like everybody's an entrepreneur, everybody's an influencer, everybody's like this. Everybody's going to have a stable coin. Every bank's going to have a stable coin. Businesses might have stable coins, right? So you're going to have choice. Okay. So we got Bitcoin, the gold. We got XRP, the bridge currency. Okay. And then I'm going heavy into WL as in Larry, FI, World Liberty Financial. It's a key. It's in the name, World Liberty Financial. It's a world bank that Trump created USD1, his boys, Donald Trump, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr. and Barron Trump, Steve Witkoff, Eric Witkoff, and I think it's Zach Witkoff, if I got their names right. They started World Liberty Financial when they were getting debanked. They created their own banking system. They created a stable coin, and then their dad wrote the rule. The Genius Act. Genius, right? So here's the thing. This is why it won't end well for the old banking system is stable coins are peer-to-peer. It doesn't run through the central bank. Trump created a World Liberty Financial Bank. His family created a bank that is global. It doesn't run through the centralized party. You and I can transact through USD1. We can transact through RLUSD for Ripple, their stablecoin. We can transact through USDC. Okay, we can transact through USAT, the tether for the US. We can transact in stable coins. We can become the bank. So if I own Bitcoin, the gold, I own XRP, the bridge currency, which I think Ripple is one of the greatest companies that go down in history, one of the most disruptive financial companies in the world. I own LFI, which is the new world bank. And then boom, I started stacking American Bitcoin on the stock side. The picks and shovels. So not only am I doing this personally, but I'm meeting with so I have, and I'll share with you guys, pull back the curtain transparently, how my ecosystems work. So I have what's called 3T Warrior Academy, which is an ecosystem that has, we have 6 different ecosystems. I own Freedom Asset Management Group, which manages So that's my asset management group. I have Freedom Insurance. I have an insurance company. We have a software company called Blockheads. We have Blockheads created Merlin. We have Age of Radio, a podcast company. I have a Refined Integrity, a men's coaching program, a men's leadership program. Did I miss anything? I have 3T Warrior Academy, which is our worldwide academy, which is an education academy. We have Age of Radio, Refined Integrity, Freedom Asset Management Group, Freedom Insurance, 3T Warrior Academy, Blockheads. I think I got Age of Radio right. So I have an ecosystem of businesses. So one of my main ecosystems has its own treasury, right? So we have Bitcoin, we have XRP, we have digital assets. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be meeting with my executive team. So I have a CFO and a COO that I'll be meeting with on the back end of every year, that I meet with every single year. And I'm going to be doing this for my Freedom Asset Management Group as well. So we're going to be building the same treasury. So we have a treasury for our 3T Warrior Academy hub. I'm going to build the same treasury, which is going to have Bitcoin, XRP, WFI, and American Bitcoin, and then our dividend strategies as well. Now, what's the why behind that? Is number one, I'm positioning my family's wealth and our income and cash flow are different. Income, you're getting paid in someone else's debt. Income is taking the income and putting it into something that creates cash flow, and then we put it into assets that are deflationary. So I'm getting the deflationary nature with XRP and Bitcoin. Okay, fixed supply 21 million, fixed supply 100 billion, can't be printed, can be printed. Okay, I'm investing in American Bitcoin, which is the picks and shovels, which is mining the fixed supply asset of 21 million Bitcoin, and they also have a Bitcoin treasury. So I'm getting exposure to the picks and shovels, and I own the actual thing that they're mining. Okay, and then I got WLFI, which is a decentralized banking system. I mean, it's why I left the banking system, right? We use banks. I mean, we use our bank account to pay our team members. We do payroll, all those different things. But anything outside of debts and non-negotiables, I buy assets, guys. I buy cash flow. So that's my strategy. And so I just wanted to explain it at that level because, guys, they're going to print a ton of money. They're going to lower interest rates. They're going to devalue your currency. But what they're doing is they're quietly positioning themselves into stable coins. They're quietly positioning themselves into Bitcoin. They're quietly positioning themselves into fixed supply assets. That's why they're doing this, guys. Well, that's why they're moving into Bitcoin now. That's why they're moving into XRP now. That is why, right? Maybe for you, it's gold. Maybe it's silver. Maybe it's real estate. I mean, I just made some real estate moves, but it's like real estate is tough now, guys. I mean, what? Maybe you can get 7% return per year on real estate. You're not even beating inflation anymore. Everything is so expensive. They're doing a 50-year mortgage now. Nobody's ever going to pay off their home anymore, right? We're doing real estate moves strictly for tax benefits, not for doors, right? I'll give you an example. I was going to put $100,000 into a rental property. And so I just made some real estate moves, but it was to use Augusta and to do short-term Airbnb. But I was going to go buy a rental, put $100,000 into a rental in Arizona. $100,000 into a $300,000 house. I couldn't even make $100 off the door because interest rates are so high and houses are so expensive. The rental price doesn't match the price of the house, right? So instead, I throw $100,000 into 506C through the Big Better Bill, a farm in Florida, a deal in Florida where I get the depreciation. I don't have to manage a property. So real estate, it's just the reason why I say that. I'm not saying real estate's not a good investment. It's great for taxes. That's what we're going to be using it for. So we're going to be using it for tax liabilities. But you have to start to rethink. My point behind that is your investment strategies. Okay. So I'm using real estate for tax benefits. I'm using dividends, stock dividends to create cash flow. I take the cash flow, I put it into deflationary assets that have fixed supply. When my fixed supply deflationary assets profit, I put it into protection. I use cash value life insurance. Okay, we use them properly, we structure them properly. They need cash in them. Okay, these agents that are setting them up, you need cash in them. They're not magic money machines. You need to put cash in them. They're being sold as retirement policies, not retirement policies. They need cash in them. They're permanent life insurance, and there's cost of insurance. So if you're not putting money in it properly and you're not leveraging it properly, which is L, then I leverage and I do what? I buy more cash flow. Okay, when lifestyle changes, that means that the percentage of net worth went up. Okay, we don't have lifestyle creep. So if you see lifestyle changes, that means the net worth went up to match that, and we're still investing the same amount every single month. So we invest and then we spend. Okay, we don't spend, then invest what's left over. Okay, so let's do a big recap here. So this won't end well for people who are not preparing for this. It won't. It just won't. There's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. I believe there'll be this big stock market bubble. I truly believe that. And I'm going to position myself in deflationary assets that will hold value. Okay. I'm going to position myself in real estate for tax liabilities. I'm going to continue to make sure I create massive amounts of cash flow for my family. Okay. And I'm going to do that through investing in innovative technologies that I know are going to survive regulation. And when they profit, I'm not going to sit on them. I'm going to pull profits off the table, and I'm going to secure in life insurance, which has been here since the Roman days. The first annuity was in the Roman days. And then I'm 49 years old with this bull run and the price appreciation. I'm going to start my first annuity to create cash for life. So I have my base, which will be cash for life. I have my life insurance, which is my family bank. I have my assets, which is the part where we profit, we sell when it's green, and we buy when it's red, and we use that to feed the machines. I'm using dividends, cash generating dividends to create cash flow. And I'm going to continue to go heavier into dividends. I'm not doing any more businesses because I'm 49. About 60, I want to start to land the plane. I want to build my ranch, and I want to have, the freedom to travel all over the world. And I would like to just be an educator. That's why I did, just travel, write books, and speak about this type of stuff. So really, really look up to Ray Dalio, Robert Kiyosaki, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger. I love investing. I'm obsessed with it. That's what I do. My expertise, I'm staying in my lane, is understanding microeconomics and logic. I use logic. I'm not the smartest cat in the world, but I'm a very logical person, very street smart. And I logically, I'm like, okay, I need to protect my family right now. I need to get ready. Because remember, 1920 to 1929, what happened? Everybody got greedy as shit. Leverage 10, 10, 20, 25. I told you to write that down. A bunch of your favorite influencers and a lot of people got leveraged because they thought they were Michael Saylor. They got greedy and they thought that these charts were just going to go straight up. They were chasing charts. Billionaires use astrology. Millionaires use charts. So pay attention, guys. The game has always been the same. Jesus came back after a donkey in 18 years and flipped over the money changers. Who do we pay our taxes to? Caesar. Pay your taxes to Caesar. Give to God what is his. Give to me what is mine. Get spiritually grounded, physically grounded, and financially grounded. That's what you're supposed to be doing, man. That's your responsibility. So I love you guys. I just wanted to do this different type of video. Happy holidays. I'm just relaxing for the next couple days and this weekend and enjoying my family. So hopefully this information reaches your heart well. I did want to share with you guys the Freedom Conference is live. If you want to hang out with me live in Mesa, Arizona, it's February 6th and 7th. The tickets are down below in the description of this video on my social media platform. Love you guys. We appreciate you. As we always say, Warriors, rise. I'll see you on the inside.